of Black Helicopter News kicks off, and I got my guest, Jay Hernández, on this week. I'd like to thank him for being my show today. We'll probably talk about a little bit of Hollow Earth and whatnot, but first, I want to just allow him to introduce himself.
What's going on? Jay Hernández here, host of the Minds podcast that should be coming out within the next couple of weeks, actually. Excited to announce. But I'm glad to have run into Andrew over here and put our heads together about just the general subject of podcasting. And then we got into a little bit of discussion over the Hollow Earth, which he had just mentioned. And we're just gonna stir up the soup, see what's good.
So I remember you mentioned a little earlier, you were still kind of on the fence of it.
Yep.
And I'm sort of there with you. I definitely think there's a great possibility. I'm a little more leaning towards the possibility that there is a Hollow Earth.
Right.
So tell me what you feel about this.
All right, so basically, I researched it not too heavily, but, I checked out a couple sites. I don't usually go to the first thing because I always feel like, different search engines sort of send you to things that are on the speculative end things. I dug a little deeper to just scratch the surface with the research, and, I heard the familiar names that you had mentioned, Admiral Byrd, the Hitler thing, the compound, the World War II, and I don't really have any specific reasons on my speculation, but just, I guess, trying to wrap my head around the fact that there's an internal, I guess we'd call it a surface, that's down there with a centralized second sun, in a matter of speaking. And, just sort of, taking into account the size of our universe, let's just say, like, our atmosphere, from the ground to the sky to the sun, is, in our terms of measuring, so vast. I mean, it's millions of miles. And to imagine that same thing can be going on in the center of the Earth, that part had me a little bit twisted after sitting on it for a bit, because I'm good with information. I like to read about things, and I like to have my mind spun out a bit, and usually when I sit on it, I start to fantasize and sort of let the details and different aspects of the subject take control and have a little pretty picture painted for me. And I had a little bit of fun with it at first in terms of that, but then in the end I was just left feeling a little empty, like, all right, like, I know I just got a feeling that there would be a little more exposure on the subject. I mean, that could be just the fact that where we're getting our information from can be blocked in many different ways. I'm a total believer in stuff like that.
All of the thousands of radio stations and news outlets out there are controlled by the same 6 corporations.
Right.
So suppressing information is child's play.
That's huge in and of itself.
How I see it is that there are many dimensions to life. And at one point, people thought the Earth was flat.
Right.
And in a way, it was, because they truly believed it. And they were in that two-dimensional world.
Right. And they were killing people that pushed any, different fact in a different direction.
And then when people discovered that the world is round, there was an enlightenment, and that brought them to the third dimension.
Right.
And now, if Hollow Earth is real, that'll bring us to the fourth. Dimension.
And I like where you're going with this, because immediately, like I said, I take information like that and I transform it immediately. So the direction I'm going with this is, when you go from 2 dimensions to 3, there's a bit of a shift. You said enlightenment, and then when you take into account what you're experiencing, it seems so very simple. It's like, oh, there's a third, we've got a third dimension. It's not something crazy like interplanetary travel or like stuff like meditative out-of-body.
A shift in consciousness.
It's just a shift in consciousness. When you actually see it, almost like the magic is gone, and it's not so hard to believe that it's true. So I could imagine that, like, if there's the 4th dimension, which most of us would perceive as the Hollow Earth, people or community or world existing in an almost upside-down fashion, that'll be easy to experience and to witness and to take in and to understand and accept. As long as we take these shifts step by step, we could actually get to the point where if somebody falls asleep in front of you and they end up on another planet, eventually that kind of stuff will be able to be accepted and perceivable by the normal person.
Absolutely. One of my main points, though, is Admiral Byrd, decorated naval officer, venture, respected, wide.
Right.
His personal diary, where he wrote, that was released after his death. He claims the compasses started going haywire. Just because of the way the Earth is on a tilt, that is not a fixed point. It's always sort of wobbling in a way. So he kept flying, noticed large area of amazing land, even something that was described similar to a woolly mammoth.
Right.
And I think it's amazing because electromagnetic beam of some sort disables the plane and gently glides it to the ground. And it was him and his co-pilot, and they noticed the very tall Nordic-looking giants. The same kind of, though, that Hitler describes in his tried to create the super race with blonde hair, blue eyes. That's just a footnote. We'll get back to that later.
Right.
But these beings come up to him, and they know it, gives them a tour.
So Admiral Byrd brought Hitler...
No.
Oh,
they never met.
Okay. They never met.
That was just a side note, because Hitler also has a connection in the story.
Okay. But Admiral Byrd flew into Hollow Earth with his co-pilot.
Yes.
Was disabled by a beam that also safely brought him in for landing.
And so they treated them as guests, and they had a long discussion about state of affairs of the world and how the atomic energy that we were just barely discovering at this time, grave consequences of using this technology.
Right.
My comment is that that's a good message.
Well, especially because we have a dozen countries fighting to get the technology themselves right now, and it's really just getting scarier and scarier.
Look at Fukushima.
Yeah. I mean, that alone. I mean, and that's a controlled, concentrated nuclear source of power, and simply because it was a tsunami, they threw the plant out of sorts, basically.
Started leaking.
Right. Well, the tsunami happened, which threw the plant out of sorts, which made them unable to cool the rods quickly enough because of damage to the plant and its way it forms, and then the overheating, I believe, is what caused holes and leaking, and just the general nature of a plant being next to water. Now you got nuclear waste in the water, and we like to eat.
Yeah. And this is exactly the kind of thing that those beings were trying to warn us about. Mm-hmm. This is not good. This is the kind of technology they were warning us about. We cannot handle that. Admiral Byrd leaves. He flies back. He tells his superiors about his story, and they tell him to not say a word about this, to not go to the press. They wanted that story to be suppressed, and it was. He kept a diary of that account, and it was released after his death. I believe his story. Some people have said it's Nazi propaganda because Hitler also, during World War II, leading up to it, was studying ancient Indian scriptures, creation stories, where they said they came from within the earth. And he was searching the occult there, the Brill Society.
So do you think that his interest in the occult and ancient cultures and life forms and stuff, do you think that was his original aim when he started to gain power and momentum as a megalomaniac, which even before...
He needed more technology. He needed the wonder weapon.
Right.
He went to Antarctica. He went to the South Pole. He found the entrance.
Right. See, because the whole thing is that not so skeptical on the idea of...
That's where the technology came from.
Right,
UFOs.
right. Because we do tend to make leaps and bounds in these weird dark age eras where supposedly discover something or some new kind of science brings us eons ahead into sort of a next level culture. I'm one to believe in ancient cultures and even, interplanetary exchanging.
I'm an ancient astronaut theorist.
Right. Because just to think that we're out here alone, it just seems kind of ignorant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Every day there's thousands of UFO sites. And there's also been accounts from the International Space Station all the time, their live feed. They catch a UFO going by, they cut even once there was recently a craft landed right there and sat there for a few seconds.
And cut feed.
Yeah, but there's copies of that out there. When we went to the moon in 1960, first thing they did when they hopped out of the craft, one small step for man, blah, blah, blah. Clicked over to the medical channel. They're here, they're watching us. Paraphrasing, but basically there were menacing ships there watching them. And then they clicked back to the regular live feed. But, what happened to those 2 minutes when he clicked to the medical channel? Why isn't anyone scrutinizing that? But I believe that they really was. Because all types of people staring at the moon, planet watchers, all that, there's structures there.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Well, there's all sorts of, speak about, the moon being sort of a beacon, a sort of rest stop, because there are gravitational dead spots where you could actually just hang out without using any energy or power, where any extraterrestrial species could keep an eye on us, make sure that we're not looking to leave the planet in a hostile way, or maybe make a mass migration off the planet, blow ourselves up, because if we actually damage the Earth, we could throw the whole solar system into disarray. The fact that there's at least the knowledge of that, God forbid you call something a fact that you hear in the sense of conspiracy theories. But there's a lot of science that supports all of these things, and the fact that, we even have cultures in Russia and Poland that live just below the surface of the streets because they've got nowhere else to go. They build communities, clubs down there, places to get food, which I'm sure they just dig out of the dumpsters, but it's perfectly fine when you really get down to the nitty-gritty. For us to know these things about our own culture and be ignorant of cultures that came before us, and for us to know things about cultures that exist in the present that contain human being life as outliers and great without our help, it's a kick in the face because you know it's there, but you don't want to see it. You see it, but you say it doesn't exist. For us to have been here for as long as we think we've been here and say we've been here because we know that for a fact, and we say, oh, we did this, we studied this, carbon dating, this and that, and to think that really there was nothing before that seems ignorant. If I were to find out today, right now, that there was nothing before that, all right, maybe I could accept it, given whichever delivery system it is I got the information from, but I would really need to be sold on that because I do believe that we could have just popped up out of nowhere after, over millions of years of just cells and whatnot, trying to find the path of least resistance and gain power and momentum and structure and size. This is what leaves me on the fence about the Hollow Earth theory.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put two and two together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds. Is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor. Just won't quit.
In the dark, where your eyes couldn't see me. Well, I had to follow you.
The Bible always talks of giants, right? In the Book of Enoch also. There was a big Smithsonian cover-up. In Wisconsin, they found over 18 giant skeletons. Also, I believe it was Captain Cook wrote in his captain's diary when he discovered Easter Island that there was two races of people, one regular Aborigine and another giants that were priest class, and they were in charge of building the giant statues of Easter Island.
Right.
So there's giants. So that's who I think of maybe some of these people that may be inhabiting Hollow Earth. Mm-hmm. Also, there was a famous alleged Army manual about 57 different types of alien species that they've come in contact with sketches of them and descriptions. And
right.
That was for the people to see that would be communicating with them around Roswell, the people that would try to make contact with them.
Right.
There's many different species of these aliens. Many have also suggested that they're also residing in Hollow Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's...
just like there are many races of us.
Exactly.
Here.
All these UFOs we see. It just seems like maybe they're not from faraway galaxies. Maybe they are from within the
yeah.
And this is their land, and we're legal aliens.
Right. And like I said, I'm not unwilling to entertain ideas like this because there are actually stories in the Bible that I was told by very religious people about an inner atmosphere that covered the Earth at one point with an inner sun. It was actually a smaller sun closer to the Earth. Actually, which kind of blows my mind right now because it took me a minute to remember this, but this was a closer sun that did the same job as the sun does now, and as a result of it being closer with an inner atmosphere that was sort of like a skin around that sun, that was the result of huge overgrowth, great trees and greenery, giant lizards, which come to be the dinosaurs, giants that I've heard in those same stories. And these are people quoting the Bible, mentioning giants, which they believe to be, I don't necessarily know how they tie in with God and Jesus and all that. I was raised Catholic, but and I didn't pay too much attention. It was really hard to sell me on that. Even
well, how do you feel about Planet X, the ancient Sumerian, one of the first cultures? Spoke of the Anunnaki, and this was a planet that came every X amount of years. They came to this Earth, and they helped advance us a little bit. And
right.
They always said they'd be back. I truly believe Planet X, that planet is real, and that will be coming back soon. Not necessarily in our lifetime.
Right.
It's supposedly what took out the dinosaurs, so...
Oh, okay.
But
so in that same token, it could actually take us out.
I believe that is the answer to where the giants came from.
I was introduced to... So I'm not new to meditation. I'm a passive sort of absorber of the information. but I was just recently given a file containing transcendental meditation, the orientation, the introduction to it. And from what I gather from the person that told me about it, my wife's cousin, a good friend of mine, he mentions that the person that gave it to him went to this school called, I forget what the name of the school was, but it's basically sort of like a pseudo X-Man meditative school where you tap into inner abilities that doesn't have to do with laser beams or shape-shifting or transporting, but it's all just meditative ways of transporting your soul or inner being or your inner self to different states, different places. And from what he gathered at the school through the teaching was that there is an ancient civilization from Mars, actually, that lived this way, where all of the people of the planet live interconnected through telekinesis and out-of-body experiences, and we're able to tap into the balance of the planet, which is essentially how I believe we should. It's just crazy how everything works in a balance, yet we still think we should cut down millions of trees in the rainforest. We should just harvest as much as we possibly can from this world in order to sell it. People talk about sinkholes and stuff like that, and you know, there's only so much oil you can suck from the planet before huge chasms start filling themselves in by using the surface of the earth to do so. You know what I mean? And that might seem crazy to some people, but it just makes sense.
The earth is a living entity.
Absolutely.
And
breathing.
Just like any biological entity, when you have a virus, your body will react violently and expel it, and that's how I feel the earth is. Like,
nail on the head. And I touched on this subject when we spoke about meeting up for this last time, but just water consumption. Let's talk about that just briefly, because I just want to run a couple ideas past you. Maybe you can use it for the podcast, whatever. The same water that is here now was here however long ago it was made. But the difference is, nowadays, with the amount of products that are out there that contain water, that are being bottled in plastic that does not biodegrade or deteriorate in a quick way whatsoever, all being stored in mass amounts. So you've got hundreds of millions of bottles of product, of even just bottled water, bottled Gatorade, juice drinks, lotions, everything contains some amount of water in it, all just being manufactured, stored, held in storage, because you store it at the corporate level. You store it in trucks when they're transported. You store it in the stores in their own inventory, and then people buy them up in bulk and store them in their houses. So at all different levels of just the corporate model, you've got people storing water that belongs in the ecosystem. And for me, I'm one to believe that one fact is simply the distance from the average level of the water surface on the planet to the top of the atmosphere has to have a great deal to do with the balance that we experience on the planet. That alone is enough to drive me to go to every store and just go nuts and explode everything that contains water in it and let it just drain back into the earth. That alone could probably save us if everybody just dumped everything out.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
You know what I mean? To just restore the balance.
If we went to a simpler lifestyle where we all had access to wells, I think we could just take what we need as we need it and just go about our day, just fill our bottle instead of storing it. At least we could just like take it from a natural source. I mean, it's kind of old-fashioned, but they could come back again. Just have some public wells. I know that's...
Right. Well, see, that's the whole thing. Yeah, it does sound and feel silly, but like that's how you get back to simplicity. I mean, simplicity in its essence is basic. Nobody likes the idea of basic because it's so ordinary. But in
grow gardens, not lawns.
Exactly, that too. I mean, just the water in itself,
it's almost like we just extracted some of the Earth's vital life essence, and like a person, if you take a pint of blood out of them, they're not going to be running on all cylinders.
Yeah, if you get dehydrated. So that's where I go with the whole water aspect, which with everything, all could lead back to Hollow Earth. And for that matter, I'm willing to at least suspend my disbelief to a point where I could actually let myself entertain thoughts like that, because just with the idea of the smaller sun with the inner atmosphere, that could completely exist within the Earth. That there's plenty of space in order for that to exist, and I could wrap my head around that. So I'm not completely dead on the whole thing. You know?
We've never drilled completely through the Earth, so...
Right. We've only really scratched the surface.
Yeah, so... Like, the books, it's not, the final word is not said, in my opinion, because every day I keep seeing things in the news. There's an ocean underneath the Earth that's able to replenish this one 3 times, and just like, how is the Earth generating heat besides the sun? How is it generating its own heat from the center. They don't know exactly how it's actually doing that, and like
Right.
all of that answered.
Right. There's been nobody
How
to
it
the
works.
center of the earth. And it's funny that Jules Verne, the center of the earth, had done, and as stupid and just crazy as that seemed to me as a kid, you know, who the fuck's gonna live at the center of the earth? Because from what I know of the center of the earth, it's a fucking billion degrees. It's the core of what's running our planet right now. That's the engine. You don't go live in the fucking engine. You know what I mean? So like, but now breaking it down to this, it makes a whole lot of sense. And then to just imagine the fourth dimension being that easy to accept because it's just the obvious next step in everything. And the fact that, you know, going from 2 dimensions through, like, it's just like a magic trick being revealed. Once you see it, you're like, okay, I get it. But the magic is still there. It's all in the perception.
They've even speculated that that's the true cause of the aurora borealis, would be the sun from within there shimmering across, and it'd be some sort of natural phenomenon due to that.
Right.
I mean, for them to pull this off, all they would have to do is just Photoshop all the pictures of the globe. So all they got to do is NASA. They got their hand in that. So all they got to do is
there's only select few people that see the Earth from outside of it.
And most of these people that have the technology to even prove if Hollow Earth is real, I might be talking on my ass, but I think the only people that have that technology is government anyway, and all they got to do is say, you
can't play with
X-ray
my
machine.
toy. Boil it down to that. Even if a Joe Schmo like us is able to develop something like that, you can't do anything like that without the invisible hand having some sort of finger in it. You're not going to get a satellite up into space without proper clearance.
Pretty obvious by now to most of us that there are certain people in the government who want to take away our guns. Our gun rights are in jeopardy. Now they can just willy-nilly ban ammunition? Oh, the 223 ammo for AR-15s is bad. I'm going to take it away by executive order. To heck with the Congress, to heck with the Constitution, to heck with the people. I'm God. I'm the dictator. I'm running a banana republic. I don't know what the guy's thinking up there in the White House, but listen, if you want to keep your guns and you want to maintain the ability to take care of protect your family, you need invisible guns, ghost guns, like the AR-15, the Ghost AR-15, starting as low as $499 at guns80.com. Go to guns80.com on the web, guns80.com. Look at the link below in the description box, link on there to guns80.com, or call 844-2GUNS80, 844-2GUNS80, or guns80.com.
The Black Knight satellite. This is something that's revolving around the Earth in like 90 minutes. It weighs 4 tons. Nikola Tesla was picking up strange frequencies from it. No one knows how old it is, who put it there, why it's there, but it seems to be a piece of technology. This could be their satellite from Hollow Earth, or it could be connected with the moon somehow. I think there's some sort of connection there. So I want to get to the bottom of this before I die one day.
Black Knight satellite, all right. It's new to me.
You'll find a lot on it. It's legitimately there, and they have pictures of it. It's one of them things they can't explain.
Nobody's studied it. Nobody's made a go at landing on it or shooting something at it. Or
that thing is flying around so fast.
90 minutes,
I
guess that's
super dangerous.
Yeah.
Like I said, Nikola Tesla was the only person that actually tried to figure it out. Press that. So
that dude, man. You know, like that guy. It's funny, I speak of this meditation. My wife's cousin says that through the meditation and the beings from Mars, just how everything that we just talked about ties all in with meditation alone. People like Miles Davis, Einstein, Nikola Tesla, even things in the scientific mind to be as crass as Jimi Hendrix, channeling this infinite ancient energy and being able to bring it to the people in such a tangible way. Because even though, all right, we're talking about guitars, trumpets, and the Tesla coil, fission, free energy, and the speed of light theory that Einstein brought, no matter how vastly different those things are, they were able somehow to bring it to the people in a tangible, accessible manner. where it wasn't like, how did you do that? Like, this is beyond, like, yes, there's still those questions, like, oh, how is this possible? But, like, we got smartphones. We have light, as basic as that. We have music, we'll say sound wave traveling, people doing things, shooting directed sound that doesn't just bleed out into the atmosphere and for everybody here focused. All those things, they are related. I'm trying to figure out the way to say this. They are all of the otherworldly essence, because in one way you can't really touch or see them, but they exist because we see the byproducts of their power, of their energy. So from that alone, I can really accept the fact that there are beings that exist happily balanced, that operate on eons higher levels than we do, and live simple, amazing lives because they just respect the balance. And I could absolutely believe that it exists right in the center of our planet. There's just too much we don't know. As much as I could say that I could easily allow myself to not believe it, I can also easily allow myself to believe it, because this planet is so huge, and the small amount of people that control the vast amount of information can easily fool the masses, because God forbid you say one wrong thing, you got the mob against you, because they don't want to hear it. They're afraid of the facts. They want everything to exist as they're shoveled it, from their televisions, even in their fucking cornmeal food they stuff in their faces every day, where everything's made of food and boxed up, portioned out right for you, just to feed yourself and get fat and slow and lethargic and useless, so that you don't unite into a movement.
Because there is correlation between food you eat and your state of being, your mental state. Eating a low vibrational food, something like that, prepackaged GMO garbage, that keep you in a heavy, low vibration, depressed kind of state. Yeah, so they want to keep you on that, so you're not vibrant with intellectual curiosity. We are 50 years more advanced than everything we have that's known right now. Tie in Hollow Earth one more time. Story came out in Forbes, and Iran, they had a story that mentioned the Hollow Earth, that said how we are being controlled by tall whites from Hollow Earth. As sensational as that sounds, that was really said in Iran newspaper.
Wow.
And they mentioned Admiral Byrd and Hitler. But UFOs, they are acknowledged by all over. That baffles your mind that there are tons of different types of alien craft. I truly believe that it's there, because, I've seen convincing videos. I believe I've seen a UFO a few times. It's just like American Indians. There was a story, this little girl was visiting her grandparents, and one night she sees these weird, strange lights, colorful rainbow type of lights on a ship, and there was also beings that came down, and they had lights coming from their fingers. The girl was scared, and the grandfather went up to him, talked to him, came back in. Indian cultures have a relationship, and even the ancient Mayans and the Space Brothers. These are...
Well, the American Indian had a relationship with the Earth, and that's why there were thousands of buffalo, even though they were killing them to eat and to clothe themselves and to make weapons out of their bones and stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to go back so fucking far. We're literally a couple hundred years away from people that were still connected to the Earth and lived fine, just fine, until somebody carried a 30-foot cross across the ocean.
The only reason people won't believe in the UFOs is just because one of those thousands of media outlets that are controlled by same-sex corporations, because they're not saying it's true.
Absolutely.
But there are so many second-hand accounts that are just discredited.
There's just too much out there in the galaxy, even, who knows, in the center of the Earth, that we've just not even tapped. Like there's still places on the face of the planet that we've not been to.
Yeah.
That are uncharted, and we have the arrogance to call ourselves, alone in the galaxy. We haven't even covered the fucking Earth yet. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. But I don't know. I think I've got a pretty healthy understanding for Hollow Earth, and enough correlations and ties to biblical references and stuff for me to really let myself continue to marinate on it, because I'll be honest, I sat on it, I painted pictures, it started to sort of close up and die, and then it was back to ground zero for me. It was that seed, and I left it there because I didn't want to kill it, and I just didn't really have the energy or the information to build it back up again. But I think after this discussion, I'm feeling pretty good about allowing myself the freedom to believe.
I love to hear that. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because the whole point of this podcast is just to get people to think outside the box and go outside the mainstream and break down your belief system, rediscover that new enlightenment. just for the intellectual curiosity of just what if. The imagination fuels every
It's
major
what's gotten us this
advancement.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like with History of Flight. It just started with an idea and some crazy contraption.
An absurd idea.
Yeah, and then it evolves. And that kind of free thinking that you're going to be open-minded about how it works. So we'll see what the future tells about this.
Absolutely. If you ever get enough, follow-up information on this, let's get back together and we'll reopen the case on Hollow Earth.
Most definitely. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Black Helicopter News, and I'd like to thank my guest, Jay Hernández. Be sure to check out his podcast. It's The Minds Podcast. Is that going to be available on iTunes?
I think I'm going to do a soft launch on Podbean first because it's free, and I'll at least get the word out there, and then we'll be looking to the iTunes in the near future after that.
Okay, and I'll be sure to post a link to that on my website, so be on the lookout for that. And all right then, thanks, man.
No problem.